So, update on the update. Don't do what I did. You get burned every time. You take everything apart. You say, oh, well, there's something that's completely broken or loose, like that tensioner pulley was right there. Totally loose, and then obviously that tensioner pulley goes to the big crank, and the crank is kind of wobbling because the tensioner was wobbling. So, greased up the guiding bolt there, cleaned it all up, made sure all the mating surfaces were good, checked every single bolt and make sure these pulleys are down tight, and they are. And just got burned. Put everything back together. It's all cocky. And damned if that thing isn't bouncing again. So I think because the tensioner pulley was loose, it started to bounce. That traveled to the crank pulley, and the addition, the belt you see that's on there right now, that addition to the crank pulley for the supercharger, since it traveled to that, it had a bounce in it. And I think, like my friend told me, he seems to be always right, it can warp that crank pulley. It can get warped inside there, and apparently it doesn't damage your internals. It's not like you have to do anything like that, but you do need a new crank pulley if this thing gets warped at all. So I was just looking at doing this outside belt, which is super easy with the tensioner. I was going to replace the tensioner pulley and the crank pulley. Like I said, I got cocky, and the tensioner pulley is super duper loose. I can just jiggle it, tighten it up, and put everything back together. Well, nope, still bouncing with everything super tight. So that means that tensioner is not as good as I think it is. And even if that's not the case, there must be a warp in that crank pulley. So stay tuned. Don't get burned like me.